Okay. So, good afternoon, all. My name is Ana Monteiro, and I think most of you know me. And I'm the Executive Director of Quality for Excellence. Thank you so much for joining this Shingo Model webinar. I hope you enjoy it. And with the time we have, it's just 30 minutes. You will get to know the overview of the Shingo model. It's not expected that you'll leave your expertise on the Shingo model. At the end of the presentation, please ask me all your questions, okay? And I hope you enjoy it, and welcome. So, Quality for Excellence is located in Braga, Portugal. We are the only Portuguese company affiliated with the Shingo Institute here in Portugal. We are a consulting company. We work quality as a whole, a bigger picture. We work environment and safety, but we always say that quality is for us our identity. We have been working in several excellence models, improvement programs, management systems. We do also projects and studies for organizations, and you have more information in our website. In the end of the presentation, you will have on there all the contacts, and please be comfortable to send me an email or give me a call, okay? So let's start with a brief Shingo Institute history, just to make you a little bit more connected with the Shingo Institute. So originating in 1988, the Shingo Prize has become the world's highest standard for excellence. This is in a response to a systematic process of raising the bar, and begins in 2008. After a deep study regarding the necessary components of creating a culture that is able to sustain improvement and consistently drive results. And we'll see further on the next slides what happened in 2008. So the focus of the Shingo Institute is unique in the world. And it's the most rigorous way to determine if an organization is fundamentally improving for the long term, or just going through the motions of another flavor of the month initiative. That's what we see in most organizations. So the recipients of the recognition fall into three categories. We have the Shingo Prize, is the highest qualification, is the worldwide recognized symbol of an organization's successful establishment of a culture anchored on principles of organizational excellence. Then we have the Shingo Silver Medallion, and those maturing on the journey with primarily a tool and system focus. And we will talk later what is a tool and a system. We have the Shingo Bronze Medallion, and those companies that are in the earlier stages of cultural transformation, we primarily a tool focus, okay? But it is important to say that most organizations do not wait until they might qualify for the Shingo Prize to challenge. We are working with some organizations here in Portugal, and they are not looking for the prize, okay? They use this progression as a way to guide their journey of continuous improvement. They not even intend to ever challenge. Some organizations do not intend to ever challenge for the prize, but use the Shingo model as the highest standard of excellence in the world, to which they aspire and hold themselves accountable, okay? The picture that you see, the photo, is Dr. Shingo, and very few individuals have contributed as much as him of the ideas we call TKM and JIT. So over the course of his life, he wrote and published 18 books. One of the book is a study of the Toyota production system. It's commonly referred as to the Green Book, and it's the most known in the world book. So here are some examples of the Shingo Award recipients. We've got Abbott Nutrition, O.C. Tanner. O.C. Tanner is a great example of organizational excellence, and further inside we will see a video of O.C. Tanner. Boston Scientific is a device company, medical device company. I had the privilege and honor of visiting in Ireland, and they are a great example of organizational excellence. You can see all a complete listing of companies on the website, on the Shingo website, and you can download it if you want it, okay? So we come to the big question: why do organizations exist? When I go to some organizations and I ask them, okay, why does your organization exist? And they are a little bit confused, looking at me like, what? Is this woman a little bit crazy? I'm not crazy, but why? And someone said to me that, oh, okay, and organizations exist to deliver results. And yes, we want an organization to deliver results, even if it's shareholder value, if it's profit, if it's service to the public, if it is resource availability, whatever. The main point is, and I want you to focus in this information is, all organizations exist to provide the results. Okay, and this is our focus when we go to work every day. We have to provide a result. So what is hard, what we want in organizations, and it is a hard task, is to obtain always good results, and that these results are sustainable over time. So this is a difficult task, and many organizations use excellence models to help them on this path of organizational excellence. Some organizations start with lean programs, improvement programs, but it's not enough to get there, to make those results sustainable over time. This is the real challenge in the organizations. So Aristotle once said that we are what we repeatedly do. So excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And in my opinion, is right. Models help an organization develop habits for the way we do things. And these habits become part of our culture, which is how we sustain the behaviors. I will talk to you in the next minutes a lot about culture, but I don't want you to forget what I said in the previous slide, that organizations exist to deliver results. Okay, we are always focused on the results, but in between the results, we need to know what is missing in our organizations. Okay, so why use a model? A model is the right model serves as a bridge between strategy planning and effective strategy execution. What I see as a consultant is the organizations has a strategy planning, but when we go to the operational part, it's not linked. And that's why some results fail, or we don't get to the results that we plan in that strategy. What it provides is a competitive advantage, and an increased market complexity requires simplified and agile decision making, because the model will help us to identify where are we not so good, or where are we missing the results. It typically focuses on the customers, the models. They help an organization to be prepared to manage dynamic environments, including innovation and technology. And we cannot go to an excellence path if we do not innovate our process, our products, and ensure consistency of purpose and consistency in focus. And why is consistency of purpose important? Because if we focus on improvement in product or service, we should become more competitive, making our organizations more relevant in their respective market segments. So this will turn, giving us the potential for growth, which can provide more jobs in our communities, for example. And that's what most of organizations wants. In this slide, this is the reality of the main excellence models. These graphs are the result of a study by Balsambaio and André Carvalho. I took the graphics of one of the most popular models, but we have the Malcolm Baldrige in the US and the European Foundation for Quality Management in Europe. And it's very interesting to see what is happening in the last few years. I don't have that information here on the slides, but for example, in the last 5 years, Malcolm Baldrige had no applications in the manufacturing sector in the US. So that's a little bit concerning for these organizations. But I think it's a sad reality, not seeing organizations trying to get the awards or even starting that journey. For me, it's a little bit concerning, I think. And we get to the Shingo model. This is how the Shingo model looks like. It has 5 diamonds. We have the guiding principles. We have the systems, the tools, the results, and in the center of the model, we have the culture. And each of these 5 elements of the Shingo model are very important. And we are going to talk a little bit now about the culture, because we can't measure culture. Right? We cannot take a ruler and measure a company's culture. And this is one of the difficulties in companies, because not having the right culture can jeopardize the achievement of the expected results. And this is where the Shingo model differs from numerous excellence models that exist. It focuses a critical part of the organization, the culture part. I already work in quality for excellence. We had projects, for example, the European Foundation for Quality Management. And in that model, the culture was only included in the last revision of the model 2 or 3 years ago. So the Shingo Institute did that in 2008. That was the major revision of the model. But let me tell you one thing, we cannot measure it. This is an important fact. We cannot measure culture, but we can measure behaviors. We can measure what people do. This is the main difference in this model. It doesn't take the focus of results, but includes the culture part, because we all have systems, we all have tools, and we all know what kind of results we are looking in our organizations. But many organizations are not concerning in the culture parts. Okay, so if I ask you, and I'm not seeing you, but if I ask if you were with or your cameras on, and I ask you, how many of you have passed the speed limit on the highway? I'm sure that most of you will raise your hand and say, oh, I already did that. And we do this because the systems allows it, right? So why do they build a system that people can break? Would we do this in our companies? Of course not. So what is often overlooked, though, is the equally profound effect that systems have on behavior. The system that was assembled, the system that they put in place, allow us to pass the speed limit in our highways. We cannot do that in organizations, but we have to be aware that we have systems that are having a tremendous and a direct impact on the behaviors of our peoples in the organizations. So most of the systems that guide the way people work are designed to create a specific business result without regards for the behavior that the system consequently drives. And this is a huge concern in organizations. So remember that my emphasis on culture is not intended to take focus on results. I have to make this very clear, but it is intended to strengthen our ability to produce ideal results that are sustainable. And to influence leadership, we must produce the results they desire. That's the only way that we will have our leadership on board for whatever initiative that we want to make in our organizations. So what is happening was a common trend that the Shingo Institute began to notice among organizations that were driving continuous improvement, was that oftentimes they were able to implement effective tools and that brought initial gains, but those gains were quickly accompanied with swift decline. So why were some organizations able to sustain improvement while others only temporarily benefit from continuous improvement efforts? They had good results, not so good results, and they was like always like this. So what the Shingo Institute did was massive research and asked this question and saw a clear theme emerge. There was something missing in the first edition of the model. So in 2008, they released a revision of the model, and they included the cultural parts. So in the beginning of the years, in the early years, it was more of a lean model, very rudimentary. It was focused on lean tools, but nothing about culture. And let's be honest, business is people-based, and they are the basis for the success of organizations, okay? So the traditional focus has been results generated by tools, and they work hard for this. Although organizations get good results, and sometimes very good results, what was happening was that sustainability has been proven to obtain. So when an organization is focused on tools, it tends to have those kinds of events that I'm trying to show you with my fingers. And then they leave the issue or the problem to another area until another event appears or is needed. Usually because the improvement was not sustained. Okay, there's not part of the DNA of the organization. So ultimately, the aggregate of employees' behaviors constitutes the organizational culture, and culture has a very strong impact on the organizational results. We may have the best tools, the best systems, but the culture is not strong, where people are involved in commitment, improvement is not sustained. And I see this reality every single day in a lot of organizations that I have the pleasure to work with. So this is what this diagram seeks to translate. When we are focused and we are focused on a change based on tools, we will have those kind of events. If we have the systems, okay, over time, the improvement will be more and more sustainable over time, but What you need is that tools and systems alone don't run a business, and people do. So we have to focus on the culture part. And to have the culture part, we have to be aware, what kind of systems do I have in place? What kind of tools do I have in place? Is those systems and those tools helping me achieving the results that I want or not? Because sometimes we have bad systems in organizations, and ultimately it could happen two things: or I will obtain a bad behavior, or the employees will not believe in that system, and they start doing in their own way. I can give you an example of an improvement that usually fades. Very common in organizations. The 5S programs fail. And why is that? Why can organizations make that improvements established, and those kinds of improvements initiatives flow over time and make it happen over and over and over again? What we see is, oh, well, I know, I already have a 5S methodology here in the company, and it failed. It was it only was able to in the first months, and after that people start not doing the audits. They they weren't involved in the initiative, and when that happened, the improvements will fail. And what will that lead is to the motivation of the employees. They will always be like, oh, forget it, that doesn't work here, we already tried, we didn't have success. And we have to stop with that, and we have to make them believe that no, we can make improvements every single day, and we can make them sustainable over time, and that will have a direct impact in the results that we want in organizations. So Edgar Schein said a very interesting thing, and I start being more aware of the culture part since I've been involved with the Shingo Model and with the Shingo Institute. And every time I go to a company, I observe more, and I say, oh, okay, that kind of behavior, it's not the right one. I can see that, I can identify that. It's easier. And I think after this webinar, I think you will go to your organizations and you will do the same. At least that's what I hope. So Edgar Schein said that the only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. If you do not manage culture, it manages you, and you may not even be aware of the extent to which this is happening. I already seen this in an organization where the owner's sons call me and say, Anne, I have a problem in my organization. My father is becoming a problem to the employees. They are not engaged. They are not motivated. And I was like, okay, how can I say to the son's boss that he is the one that is causing the problems, not his father? Because I saw the way he treat people, the way he managed some problems, and it was not the right way. He allows bad behaviors in organizations. So once one of his employees told me that, Anna, if he doesn't care, who will? So that's a problem. And it starts on leadership, on top management. So it is fair to say that are different behavior expectations for each role. In the culture, we have different roles in organizations. Every organization has it. And in the Shingo Institute, they define in three types: leaders, managers, and team members. So which of these three has the greatest influence on culture? I think we all agree that are the leaders, because they are responsible for creating the environment for the organization to function. So, and we need managers because they are responsible for the daily results. They are the ones on the ground worrying about employees and their daily practices. And we also need team members because they are the ones who most demonstrate people's behavior, because they are the most numbers in companies. So every role in the organizations has influence on the culture of the organization, but in different ways. Okay, when the what the Shingo defends is that leaders are more connected with the guiding principles. That's where they spend most of their time, or it should be in the guiding principles. We will talk later about the guiding principles. Managers should be more focused on the systems, and the team members on with the tools, because that's what they are going to use in their daily activities. Okay. So what we need for any organization, and this is any organization, regardless the kind, the activity that they do, for any organization to be successful long-term, it must engage in a relentless quest to improve. Improvement is hard work, but the alternative is entropy. So there is no middle ground here nowadays. Not even with the market is every single day is more demanding and demanding. The client is very demanding day after day. So we have to work on improvements. For example, OC Tenor, I had a training there, and OC Tenor was with we can say a huge delay on the delivers to the clients. And they told me that every single day they stop and they discuss improvements for about 15 minutes every single day. And I was like, oh, okay. But you are with you are with some delays with, yes, Anna, but we know that we will recover that time further in the way. But we need to continue to speak and to discuss improvements every single day. Most of organizations that I visit, and regardless their size, tell me, oh, Anna, forget it. Now I don't have time for that. I have to serve my clients. I don't have time to speak about improvements. And sometimes I say, okay, let's continue to lose money, because that's what it's happening in organizations. Sometimes what more than the application of a new tool or a leader's charismatic personality, organizational improvement requires executives, managers, and team members, meaning all the organization, that are humble, that are engaged, and that empowered. Because sustainable results require a culture in which every person is involved in making improvements every day. They must be engaged in that way. What we see in most organizations is that if executives don't care, if they don't set an example defining and living the principles, if they see and know about a bad behavior and allow it, the company culture is completely destroyed. Because employees will do what they want, how they want, regardless of the defined systems. And managers have an enormous job to realign management, improvement, and work systems to drive the ideal behavior required by all people to achieve the ideal business results, because we are always looking for the results. What I have to tell you is that organizations have to be very careful in defining the systems and tools they are going to use and what is expected results, okay? And whether if they have the appropriate behavior or not. And here lies the part of culture that is so important in this model. So we have to be very clear on what the definitions are for each company. For example, a 5S can be a system for an organization, but for another organization, it can be a tool that's within the improvement system. They can have a system that is the improvement system, and they use a tool named 5S, or the 5S can be a system. So it will depend on the definition that each company had for system and tool. And this is not my major concern in the organizations when we are working on the Shingo model. The hard part is, and the challenge is, identifying what systems do I have in place in my organizations. This is the hard part. And a lot of times we see that we are getting some behaviors in some results, and there is no system supporting those kind of behaviors. So the Shingo Institute also define 3 insights for organizational excellence. They have the 3 insights will help us in the journey of organizational excellence. The insight number 1 says that ideal results require ideal behavior, meaning that companies stop measuring results and start measuring behaviors. This is a very important aspect, and we will talk about measuring in KPIs. We'll talk that a little bit further on the slides. At insight number 2, they define like purpose and systems drive behavior. We have to ensure that people do well, but that system helps to align with purpose. And if management doesn't care about the system, people are skeptical and don't follow the purpose. They end up doing in their way because the system didn't work and made the task difficult. So we have to make it easy to people do the right thing. Sometimes we ask, why are you not following that procedure, that system that we have defined? Because it takes me more time, because it interferes directly in the quality of my product, because in most of the times that happened because the employees weren't involved in the definition of the system, and that's wrong. They are in the daily activities, so they have to be involved in that. So that's why we say, make it easy to people do the right thing. Okay, do not define a system that will do it hard for people to do their job. That won't work. Okay, and in site number 3, what the Shingo Institute defined was that principles inform ideal behavior, and principles are fundamental rules that govern consequences. The more deeply one understands the principles, the more clearly he or she understands ideal behavior. So the more clearly one understands ideal behavior, the better he or she can design systems to drive that behavior and ultimately achieve ideal results. Okay, so we have to ask in organizations, why do we do this? Most of the time when we go do benchmark with other organizations, usually we see people very concerned on, can I take pictures of your boards? Can I take, guys, we don't know why they assemble the boards in that way, why they have that information on boards. So it might work in the company A, but it might not work in our company because we didn't know why they are doing the way they assemble that kind of information. So in our organizations, we have to know why do we do this and why do we do it in this way. What kind of results am I looking? What kind of results do I need to achieve? Okay, what system do I have in place? What kind of behavior am I obtaining? Okay, so we have to transform the principles into good behavior. And I'm going to speak about the guiding principles. So, and we do this because we are going to improve quality. So we are going to look at quality at the source, for example. Okay, why are you doing that kind of thing? Oh, because I'm going to improve quality. I want to improve quality. I want to improve my product. Okay, so I'm going to apply one of the principles, that is looking at the quality at the source. Okay, but we are talking about culture. I'm talking about behavior, and what are behaviors? In my first contact with the Shingo model, I was like, okay, how can I'm not understanding. How can I put behaviors in place? How can I identify those behaviors? And the definition that they have to behavior is that behavior are things that we can observe, define, and record or measure. Okay, this is a little bit confusing in the beginning. So what does this mean? Let's take, I'm going to give you a basic behavior, a basic example that you might recognize. So if any of you are parents, or maybe are just young enough to remember being a child, you may relate to a behavior I personally observe all too often, unfortunately, including for my own child. So let's picture yourself in a quiet restaurant, enjoying an amazing meal, when out of nowhere comes the screaming of a 3-year-old. It's the age of my son, my daughter, wants something, but it's obviously that is not getting it. So now, first, is this something I can observe? Yes, it is. Can I define what I'm observing? Sure. Is a screaming kid in a restaurant annoying other persons? So can I record or measure the behavior? Yes, I can. We could measure the number of screams, the loudness of the screams, or even how long it takes for the child to stop screaming. So what we know now is that we have a behavior, and in this case, it's the ideal behavior. It's not in any way. So how can this situation be improved next time parents go to eat a peaceful meal? They have to see what kind of systems that I have in place and what kind of tools can I use to make this bad behavior into good behavior. So what you have to be very aware that there are many both positive and negative behaviors in organizations. Okay, a negative behavior might include workers leaving work earlier. This is less than ideal behavior and will surely not bring about ideal results. Okay, and we have to think that, okay, how can I improve the situation here? And sometimes what we need to do is go to the Gemba. Need to go to the Gemba and first simply identify behaviors. We need to observe. This is what the Shingo define in their activities. They don't go to the Gemba. They call it go and observe. We need to go to the Gemba and observe. And it's very easy as the time goes by that you will manage to identify behaviors, negative and positive. And when we observe a behavior, we can then trace it back to the system, or sometimes a lack of the system that is causing that behavior. Okay, because the behavior is the evidence of whether principles and systems are being used appropriately. Okay, and it is common to see different behaviors at different levels of the organization. This is where also the Shingo, and I didn't told you this is where the Shingo model also differs from the other the other excellence models. It has to involve every levels of the organization. Okay, top to down, down to top. Everyone have to be involved in the organization. Okay, it's not a one-man show like we already seen in other excellence models. No, every organization, and even the assessment is completely different than we used to do in the other excellence models. So this is what's happening to organizations. We want to get to some point, but we have a gap, and I can't go through that gap. So Albert Einstein said that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use when we create them. So what we need is to build a bridge to organizational excellence. And the big question is, how can I do that? Remember that leadership is focused on results and needs to be. Otherwise, our organizations won't be for many years in the market. So how do we deliver the results given what we control and make our culture more capable of dealing with or even leveraging the things it does not control? And here the Shingo Institute is very clear. What they defend is that we are not showing you another program. No, this is a new way of thinking. Okay, it is a way to strengthen what we already have in place in organizations and help to make progress toward operational excellence. Because like I said, we have systems in organizations, we have tools in organizations, we know what kind of results we want to achieve on an organization. So what is missing? And this is where the Shingo model is very helpful, because the Shingo model creates that bridge, the bridge that closes the gap. And when well implemented, allow us to sustain ideal results by implementing systems that will drive the ideal behaviors. Okay, even with the organization, for example, OC Tanner has already been recognized with the Shingo Prize, but even then, work on improvements every single day for at least 15 minutes. So that's not, it's a continuous improvement, it's a continuous journey, and companies can stop and cross their arms and say, okay, I'm done. I'm in an organizational path and I'm fine, I'm already, I don't have to do anything else. That's not the truth, okay? So what happens in organizations and in companies is that people get stuck on the problem and they can't see it from another angle and end up not solving it. They know there's a problem there, but they don't do anything. And most organizations hit a wall when it comes to sustain of results, and some even backslides. Okay, so some organizations, when they start becoming interesting on the Shingo model, one of their most concerns is, Anna, do I have to erase everything that I have in my organization, every systems, every improvement systems that I have in place? No, the Shingo model will work as a top layer. You will make everything that we already have in place connected. It will correct the wrong ones, the ones that are making me having bad behaviors in my organization, and it will help me correct the existing gap that I have in organizations. Okay, and what many times occurs in organizations is that we can see people solving or trying to solve a problem, and they don't get to the bottom of it. They don't get to the bottom of it because they don't involve the people on the ground. Okay, because they think they know what is happening. And I always ask, okay, if you tell me that you think you know something but you cannot show me, for me it doesn't exist. That's always what I say. Oh, and I think that is like this. Oh, I'm sure this is happening because of A, B, or C. Okay, can you show me? Oh no. Okay, for me it doesn't exist what you are saying. Okay, and we do this. We see this in our organizations. We see these in the organizations that we are working, and we have to stop that. So what is, and I'm going a little bit on overtime, but the Shingo model, what it does is we have the systems, we have the tools, we have the results, but they define guiding principles. And those guiding principles are 10. They are divided in 3 dimensions. We have the cultural enablers, that is about people. We have the continuous improvement dimension, that is about process. And we have the enterprise alignment, that is about the purpose of the organization. Okay. And remember one thing, they are all interdependent in their relationship. Okay. We cannot work with continuous improvement and if we don't work with the cultural enablers dimension. Okay, they are all interconnected. So each principle has been placed in the dimension that are most closely associated. Okay, and they are 10. In the cultural enablers, we have 2: respect every individual and lead with humility. In continuous improvement, we have assure quality at the source. We have improved flow and pull, seek perfection, embrace scientific thinking, and focus on process. And on the enterprise alignment, we have create value for the customer, create consistency of purpose, and we have the think systematically. What is very, if you understand the principle, you will predict the behavior. Stephen Covey defined a principle as a natural law that is universally understood, timeless in its meaning, and self-evident. Okay, it taught that values govern actions, but principles govern the consequence of actions. That's what he defends. So what happened here, and this guiding principle, these 10 guiding principles, organizations, you can ask me, Anna, can organizations define another guiding principles? Yes, but let me tell you one thing. These guiding principles was an extensive research that lasted 4 years. And what the Shingo Institute did was ask recipients, because they saw that some recipients were always getting better and better over time. So they asked them how they were doing things. And what the Shingo Institute did was put that information in principles. Okay, the Shingo Institute applied the thinking of Stephen Covey, is the author of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The research lasted 4 years, and the Shingo Institute was asking to the recipients, why are you doing that? And they reply, because I want to see quality. I want to see quality. I want to improve. Okay, so I want to see quality at the source. And we have one principle that is in the continuous improvement dimension. So the principles came from the best of the best. It's still going, this research is still going, but we have these 10 guiding principles. So organizations, what should do is take these guiding principles and see inside their organizations how they define each guiding principle. How can I identify each guiding principle in my organization, and not being concerned in defining another guiding principles. Okay, so you have the definition of all of these guiding principles in the Shingo Model Handbook, and you can download the Shingo Model Handbook from the Shingo Institute website. It's free. You have all the definitions, you have examples there, and it's very interesting to read. Okay, because we don't have time to go through the guiding principles. So in the previous slide, we have the little man on the bridge. They had that little gap and it couldn't go through all of the bridge. So what is missing there was the systems. What principles will do is align systems to drive the behavior to close the gap that we have to achieve the organizational excellence. Okay, it is the systems that close the gap, but be very aware that by themselves, they do not work. Okay, and the other day I have a client that sent me an article that was talking about behaviors, and the author was it was very skeptical about changing behaviors in the organization. And I agree, we cannot change behaviors in the organization if I don't see what kind of systems that I have in place, what kind of results I am looking, and what kind of behaviors do I need to have. And this is very new, because I think most of us, all of us, are very familiar with the term key performance indicator, or KPIs. We all have this in our organizations, and KPIs help us gauge the performance of our process or systems. But these are typically lagging indicators, which means we have to look back on a period of time in order to see how well we did. Okay. What the Shingo model teaches is to measure behaviors, because I told you in one of the slides that we cannot measure culture, and we can't. but we can measure behaviors, and we measure behaviors defining key behavior indicator. If you ask me, Anna, in all the organizations that you are working or you work in the past years, how many of them were key behavior indicators defined? 0, none. Even if it's a micro company or a multinational company, okay, none. So what systems make it easier to do the right thing. And KPIs, the key behavior indicators, are what help us get the best results, okay? This is a very difficult task. Identify the KPIs that are priority, the systems that are in place to move behavior closer to ideal, and choose the tools that adapt best to your current culture, capability, and capacity, okay? But with this, I'm not telling that KPIs are not important. Of course they are, but they have to be also KPIs in organizations. I have to measure the behaviors of someone, and I'm not measuring the behavior just to okay, that employee didn't do the way I didn't like their behavior, and I'm going to make an I don't know. I'm going to make an assessment of their behavior. I'm going I'm going to fire him. We are not looking after that. If you are in that mindset, if our leaders are with that kind of mindset, we are not going in the right culture. We are not going to have the right culture in the organizations. Okay, that's not what is expected. What is expected is to identify the behaviors, because we do our work every single day in organization. So we are the ones that are responsible for the results that the organizations obtain. If we have a bad behavior for someone, because maybe he thinks that he's doing the right way, the best way he knows, but if the system allows it, it will have a direct impact on results. And that's why the results are always in like this. Why do I have sometimes good results and sometimes I don't have so good results? So this is the real challenging, okay? For example, of behaviors, I can tell you a lot of organizations define as a KPI the employee satisfaction rate. That's why I want 80% of my employee satisfaction. Okay, how many employees did respond to the survey? Oh, I have 200 employees and only, I don't know, 40% answered. Okay, that's a behavior that I can see. And this is a problem. Why are not my employees responding and involving in the survey for their satisfaction? This is a behavior, and this is what people have to be concerned. Okay, I can measure the rate of my employee satisfaction, but I also have to measure the response rate, because if I don't have all my employees responding to my survey, that is directly that's the channel that they have to speak, because it's anonymous. I have a problem there. They are not engaged. They are not involved. So I have this little video, and it's very short video, and it's an example of how OC Tanner did to make the Shingo model connect in every ways of the organization. Okay, and we are almost done. Can you hear it?
So OC Tanner used to be a very top-down, controlling, authoritarian company. We decided 25 years ago we needed to be more team-based, more empowered. And so we began on a lean journey 25 years ago that has brought us incredible results. For example, our efficiency has tripled, our quality is in the 6 Sigma region, and our manufacturing throughput time has decreased from 26 days down to 20 minutes. But I'm thinking that actually the most impressive thing that we've accomplished in the last 25 years is the empowerment of our people. Our people have worked with us side by side to create a culture where they work every day to make the business better. And the way they know that they're doing the right things is we have them aligned very closely with corporate strategy. They're all trying to drive the corporate strategy. And we allow that to happen by having a really strong cultural foundation of respect for people and humble leadership. Lots of people attempt to implement lean and they get some initial gains, but then they struggle when it doesn't continue to improve. And that's always because there's insufficient culture to provide support. True lean counts on the empowerment of people. And people to be empowered, you can't just say, hey, go out and make a difference. You have to know what to work on. You have to know how to work on it. That takes a lot of training, it takes a lot of development, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of appreciation poured on to encourage the right type of behaviors. As our people continuously strive to make the company better, they feel the success that comes from, I've done something good. And organizations can't get there if people don't believe that management trusts them, and if they don't trust management to let them do the things that they want to do. So for us, lean is ultimately about the culture of our people. Lean assumes that people know how to do the work best, and if we will trust them and believe in them, that they can make processes better. If people understand the strong connection they have to corporate profitability and driving results, they'll make phenomenal things happen. We just have to turn them loose.
So this is very interesting what he had said. He said that they have an empowerment of their people, and their people work every day to make the business better. They are so involved that they work every day to make the business better. But that happens because the people understand their job and why they are doing that. For example, when I told you that I was in Ireland in Boston Scientific is a medical device company, and what they did to make people aware of the impact of the work they did was that it's medical devices. So what they did was talk to the patients that had received medical device, and they film it. And then they pass through their employees and they say, okay, you see that you work this in every single day, you make these kind of devices, and this is how it's impacting our patients. So their purpose were patient care. And as the way I went through the organization and spoke with several employees, their speech was so connected, and they were always telling me, Anna, we are here for patient care. So they were so involved because they knew at the end of the line, they were making the life of someone better and better, but they were involved in this. The organization assembled a system that the feedback was given after the product leave their organization. That was an amazing example that I saw, and they were super engaged, very motivated. And I could see those guiding principles, the respect every individual and lead with humility. They were there, and the seek perfection and the short quality at the source. I could see that only observing their activities and speaking with the employees. So the Shingo model has implementation phases. In quality for excellence, this is our implementation phase. First of all, we do a model training. Then we do an initial assessment to be aware how the organization is, and then we go to the implementation. So what we do is we do the adaptation of the Shingo guiding principles to the organization. We do a survey of existing systems and tools. We identify the behaviors observed in the current scenario, and we identify what kind of behaviors are expected. Then what we do is define the KPIs, link it to the organization's strategy, and define the KPIs. And what it comes from this is a lot of improvement projects and actions, and we will implement them. Just to be aware, adopting excellence, I don't like to say implementing. I think we need to say adopt excellence and adopt this journey. It's not 1 year journey. Okay, it's a long journey. We will be able to go further. Then we will come back again with our our actions or our systems. Okay, I thought that would work. It's not working so well. We have to analyze it again. So it's a journey, and it's very important, because sometimes people say, okay, I want to change my culture. It's going to be ready tomorrow or next month. No, come on, guys, not even in 1 year or two. Okay. Of course, it will all depends on the culture of the organization that already had in place, and even the maturity of the organization. Okay. So advantages and impacts on the organization, it's Shingo model. It's a great opportunity to, as it's a great chance to change. That's why I love it, this picture so much, because it's a structured approach aimed to improve at improving organizational performance. The model work as a bridge. It will close that gap, and it's a bridge between, okay, this is my strategic planning, and this is my efficient strategy execution, and what do I need to get there. It makes the results sustainable over time, allow us for agile and simplified decision making, because it will be more easier to identify where am I having problems. It focuses on systems that generate behaviors, transforming them into ideal behaviors, and it's very centered on culture and people, without letting the results at the side. Okay. And this is the last thing that I have to say to you, that no dimension of an organization will sustain by its own. All dimensions must be connected and support each other. Okay. And what I want you is, what are you going to do differently? What are you going to try new in your organization? So I challenge you to go back to your workplace and start to identify 5 behaviors, positive behaviors, 5 negative behaviors, and then try to connect them with the systems that you have in place, or not. You may not have a system. So it is an essential first step to understand the organization's culture, or even if that culture exists in the way that you are thinking. So the Shingo Institute had 6 distinct courses to build organizational excellence. Quality for excellence is allowed and recognized by the Shingo Institute to offer these courses. The first and the first one in this journey, and that the Shingo Institute, it's mandatory from them, is the Discover Excellence. And it's like the name. It is to go to the game and discover excellence. And so today's workshop that has a lot of practical exercises, and we go to the Gamba and we go observe and talk to people. What I didn't say is, when we go to talk to people, and if I go to an employee and I say, look, you are doing this wrong, I lost him. He won't be able to give me any information, any good feedback, or I will not have him involved with me. If I go there and I say, okay, we are not achieving the results that we thought it was possible, how do you think we can change this? How can I help you making improvements in your work? Do you need some tools? There will be, okay, this guy is actually worried with me. So let me help them also in the organizations, in my organization. Let me discuss what is going wrong and what do I need to make my job easier. In the past week, I was in an organization, and we were discussing projects that they implement, adopting only the basic quality tools. It's a multinational company, and it was very interesting to see one of the results of one of the projects. They have in 3 weeks already a massive improvement. And I asked them, what do you think it was the big factor in involving people? And we are not used to involve everyone every day in every places. This was the first time that we involved the people in that specific area where we have a major problem. They were so engaged in speaking, and the improvement immediately appears. So this is what is missing in organizations. We have to involve everyone. Of course, we have different levels, but that's my main message. Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if you have questions for me, but now is the time. I know I took a little bit longer than was supposed to. Does anyone wants to make questions? This is the time. No? Was it clear for everyone? Ok, eu acho que eu posso falar em português, só temos portugueses, portanto... ninguém? Foi claro? Passei a mensagem clara? Portanto, aqui o que é importante é mesmo que as pessoas se preocupem. As empresas estão cada vez mais a trabalhar para envolver as pessoas, para tornar as pessoas, para termos ambientes felizes nas organizações, mas depois vemos uma série de comportamentos, de metodologias e muitas vezes definidos pelas gestões de topo das organizações, conselhos de administração, gerentes, que não bate a cara com a perdigote, não é? Depois vemos os colaboradores, Ana, eu vejo isto, o dono da empresa permite, portanto, como é que eu me vou preocupar, como é que eu me vou envolver, portanto, e muitas vezes eu digo, ok, então tentem mostrar à gestão de topo que conseguimos mostrar este problema estamos a ter esta perda monetária, e às vezes é a maneira de conseguirmos que a gestão de topo entre a bordo e quando começa a ver as melhorias e a cultura organizacional como algo efetivamente diferenciador e importante nas organizações. Obrigada, Tiago. Não há questões? Vocês também tiveram os meus contactos, qualquer coisa podem enviar e-mail, telefonar, vocês estão completamente à vontade com isso, está bem? Obrigada a todos pela vossa enorme paciência e por terem feito parte deste nosso webinar sobre o Shingo Model. Está bem?
Obrigada.
Obrigada e até à próxima.
Obrigada.
Obrigado, até a próxima.
Obrigado. Deus.